So, for those of you that are that haven't been here for a couple weeks, and I can see a couple of you up there, I am excited. Doesn't sound like the way I'm talking. I'm excited to be engaged in a revelation for us about the father-child relationship, that God is our Father. And the Lord's begun to open some things up for me. I had a chance to teach it a bunch of times in the last few days, about 4 or 5 times to different groups of people, including us, in the last 10 days. And just some stunning things came out of it. So I know that God is in it. I know that it answers a lot of questions that we have. And I hope tonight is a brief introduction. We have 2 objectives tonight. One, I want to make an introduction about the preeminence of our relationship with our Father. And it's just going to be a concept that I want you to think about. And then the next thing that we want to do is I want to check into our heart. We had a wonderful set of leaders meetings on Wednesday. And one of the things that we talked about is it would be kind of weird with everything that's going on, all the political and cultural upheaval that's going on and everything that's coming. It would be kind of weird to not check in and see how your heart's doing. So I know Tuesday night at our group, we had some discussion. It seemed like it helped some people, really did. It was pretty neat. There was a lot of grace and a lot of sweetness there. There was a lot of, opportunity to think things through and talk it out. Tommy, your husband was a rock star at that meeting, and I'll tell you a little bit about what Tom did. So we were talking about things that are going on, and we were talking about riots and various things like that, and just all the crazy cultural stuff that we didn't think we'd have to deal with for, in our country, and in the censoring and the freedoms that are going, seemingly coming under fire. And Tom pipes up. He's got a quiet voice, but everybody listens when he speaks because there's usually something cool there. So he pipes up and he says, well, he said, I did a little research on the riots back in the 60s. And he goes, this is really not the first time we've had riots where, buildings were being burned and cop cars were smoldering on the street and stuff, or even the Capitol. And he just cited these statistics as something like there was 170 or something like that, and 170 distinct riots in 1967. And of course, when he said that, we lived in Southern California when I was little at that time, and man, all those things came back so vividly, and he said, I think there was 108 or something like that in 68, and had another number in 69. And then the thing he finished the discussion with, and there was a number of people that were in their 30s, or maybe a couple that were even a tiny bit younger, and the discussion had gone into some challenging areas about, the loss of freedom and manipulation, things like that. And Tom said, I don't know. He said, we actually have lived through a couple things like this. He said, I don't know how many of you remember what it was like to be instructed 2 or 3 times a week as an elementary school student that if you see a flash, don't look at it, turn away, pull your hood over your head, and get under your desk. And the expression on the faces of some of you guys that probably had never experienced or thought about that you mean there was a time in your lives when you guys were going to try to protect yourself from a nuclear blast by pulling your hood over your head and getting under your desk? And yeah, there was. And somebody asked, well, what was the result of that? And he said, a whole generation of traumatized elementary school students, And he says, but we lived through it. We lived through it. And we are, oh, hey, Tom. Yeah, I kind of butchered your data, I think, but the essence of the story came through. And it's just fantastic. And so I'm hoping that tonight, as we can create a place where it's easy and therapeutic to check out your heart, I'm hoping that it can be a place rooted in some truth in Scripture and just general truth about the love of God, where you'll be able to walk away feeling better, if you need to, or walk away fired up if you're already fired up. All right. Let me try to make this make sense to you. And I have a couple things that the Lord and I dialogued about that I'm going to read to you too out of my journal. But before the cosmos, this was the first relationship, okay? And we're talking child and father, first relationship. This is David Bentley Hart's translation, if it sounds different to you. In the origin, there was the Logos. And the Logos was present with God. And the Logos was God. This one was present with God in the origin. You notice how it repeats? Repeating things like that is a significant thing in the Scripture. It gives you pause to hear it and to see it both ways. The word present there is the word pros, and it fundamentally means genuinely present, face-to-face, engaged. So the Logos was present, pros, face-to-face with God, and the Logos was God. This one was present with God in the origin, and all things came to be through him. And to emphasize that, it's repeated again. And without him came to be not a single thing that has come to be. All right. So, you see why the title, Before the Cosmos, the first relationship? Because before creation, before the cosmos even existed, there was this relationship between the Logos and God. And now we have come to know by revelation that that is a relationship between Jesus and his Father before Jesus took on the incarnation. Now, does that strike you? Or are you just going, well, Larry, we all know that. I mean, that's the fundamental basic belief in Christianity, that Jesus is God and he was with God before the foundation of the world. It's okay if it's old news. But I want you to at least make a little room for it to be something more spectacular than just rote news. This is the first fundamental relationship before anything else was created. Before there was time, before there was space, before there was other matter. All of that was spoken into existence purposely and willfully by God. And the relationship between God and the Logos, or what we have come to know, the Father and the Son in the Spirit, is the very relationship from which the cosmos came. This is what it says here. All things came to be, began to exist, came into being through him, the Logos. And without him came to be not a single thing that has come to be. So, the cosmos exists. Everything that we're experiencing, our lives, our bodies, time, space, gravity, all of the laws of nature, all of the spiritual laws, all of the spiritual realities, angels, all of the unseen things like stellar mechanics, gravity, all of that, all of the spinning gravitational effects of the electrons and neutrons, all of that stuff, all of that came out of this relationship between the Logos and God, between the Word and his Father.